Hello and welcome to Sacred Psychology, the podcast for misfits and mystics. Here, neuroscience and spirituality go hand in hand. Join me, Tamara Powell, on a no-holds-barred adventure outside the box, because that's where all the truly great shit happens anyway. Welcome back to Sacred Psychology. I'm your host, Tamara Powell. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I have a couple of quick announcements. The first is that I will be taking a holiday break from mid-December until after the new year. I hope you all have a wonderful season of giving and sharing and connecting with your loved ones. And perhaps take the opportunity to scroll back through any past episodes you may have missed. And secondly, I want to invite you to consider joining me in a 6-month sacred journey into your soul and psyche and all of the many splendid psychospiritual manifestations that comprise you, from the beautiful and ethereal to the dark and powerful. I created the sanctuary as a true inner sanctum for a core group of highly committed women who are ready to dive deep, real deep, and take total responsibility for their lives and the missions they came here to serve, and to feel completely connected to their authenticity and spirituality. Now, healer archetypes like coaches, therapists, helpers, and healers will especially benefit from this program. So, if you're feeling like you've hit a plateau in life, business, or personal or spiritual development, or you just crave more, the sanctuary may be exactly what you're looking for. From February to July of 2019, we're going to meet weekly to explore in depth a variety of topics designed to heal, awaken, and empower each woman's optimal set point for satisfaction and success, including self-reliance, radical autonomy, the power of ritual from a psycho-spiritual perspective, and how to find your unique path, creating your own prescription to break the illusion of persona and negative internal narratives, embracing the flow or Tao and embodying the sovereignty goddess, and sacred sexuality. I'll also be bringing in some of my most trusted colleagues from my incredible, diverse, and masterful network to help us expand and grow in some really powerful areas such as astrology, sexuality, relationships, mindfulness, intuition, healing trauma, and leadership. There's really something for every woman here. You'll be receiving access to elite knowledge and experience from world-renowned experts in their field. On the third week of every month, you'll receive a guided meditation and journey into the ethos and the shadows, which will sometimes include energy clearings and activations. So if you're into that, this is definitely something you're going to be excited about. These sessions have become the cornerstone and bedrock of my experiential approach as a psycho-spiritual healer and mentor. Trust me, you're going to love it. In the fourth week, we'll have a live Q&A session together, and to top it all off, there's a private Facebook community for daily support if you like, as well as workbooks with homework suggestions, journal prompts, and more. There's even an archive from last year's group experts to scroll through at your leisure. Are you ready to add a little or a lot more rocket fuel to your rebel soul? Head on over to aryatherapy.com/the sanctuary. That's ARYA therapy.com/the sanctuary to see which level of support is right for you. I'll also have a link to this in the show notes, so no worries if you forget that URL. And if you join before the new year, you can select an extended payment plan as low as $98 a month if you like. I can't wait to see you there. Now, on to today's show. So y'all have heard me rant before about what I view to be a whitewashing, reductionizing, airy-fairy, all glitter, no substance trend in the self-help and personal development world when it comes to the theme of quote-unquote self-care or self-love. And if we add in a component of holistic spirituality, lines get even more blurred between spiritual enlightenment and spiritual entertainment. And that's where today's conversation begins. My guest is Sharon Podobnik-Peterson. Sharon is an executive leadership coach, an adjunct professor of education at John Hopkins, so she truly knows her stuff inside and out, and that's what I love about her. And she's the founder of Go Love Yourself. Go Love Yourself is the #1 personal growth subscription box for women. You may have seen it on the Washington Post, Bustle, Thrive Global, and more. Women everywhere are taking advantage of this incredible, creative, month-long self-care experience. Each box contains a personal development or self-help book, resources to help you put the strategies from that book into action and to make it stick, as well as reading experience enhancers such as tea, candles, and yummy self-care items. You're also going to get a 30-minute coaching session with one of that month's featured coaches and access to additional resources, motivation, and support through their exclusive online community. Here's how it works. Step 1, you customize your package. You choose how many goodies come in your box and whether or not you want coaching, etc. Step 2, you receive your total rejuvenation in a box and you spend the month loving yourself through the lens of that month's topic. Step 3, you hop online and you connect with their exclusive, supportive, and encouraging community where new friends, coaches, and experts are there to share tips, encourage you, and give you the support you need. And step 4, you make it last with the group coaching session with that month's featured coach. And these women are powerhouses in their field. They have sleep coaches, friendship coaches, self-love coaches, authenticity coaches, finance coaches, and so much more. So if you're a busy woman who knows that self-care needs to be more than just something you talk about and squeeze in whenever you can, that it literally should be a lifestyle. And if you love exploring topics like mindfulness, financial freedom, the Danish craze Hygge, and you're into authors like Brené Brown, Elizabeth Gilbert, Catherine Price, and more, this is for you. Don't wait any longer, unless you're driving. Go online to thegoloveyourselfbox.com and enter promo code SACRED, that's right, SACRED, to receive 10% off all your purchases. That's right. Regardless of what you buy and when you buy it, you can snag extra savings. That's thegoloveyourselfbox.com and enter promo code SACRED. And now on to my interview with the incredible treasure trove of information and empowerment, the one, the only, the ever incomparable Sharon Podobnik-Peterson. Hey, Sharon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here and chat with you this morning.
I am so glad, too. For my listeners who don't know, you were super gracious in letting me reschedule when we had that Hurricane Michael come through. So happy to be doing this second time around.
Second time. I'm glad to be here.
So awesome. So I am thrilled to be diving into this topic that I completely have owned on this podcast before, that I have a big biases on. And when you and I got to talking in the pre-interview, I was like, oh no, this chick gets it. And I can't wait to dive more into it. And that's really that buzzword and the differences between self-care, self-help, and spiritual enlightenment versus entertainment.
Yes.
Yes. So good. I'm so excited already. So before we get into that, though, tell my listeners a little bit about you.
Yeah. So my name is Sharon, obviously, and I call myself a values-driven multi-passionate, which essentially means that I'm interested in a ton of things and decide to pursue what I'm going to pursue based on a handful of values that I always have in my back pocket that kind of lead me. So I started off as an educator because one of my big values is learning and education and experiences. And so I started off in education to work with underserved communities and helping make sure that those students get what they need to be successful and have the opportunities and access that they need to have choice and opportunities in their lives. And then from there, I essentially went through the entire process, worked in a couple of different schools and a couple of different school districts, and eventually just burnt the F out.
Yeah.
And decided to take a step back and wasn't necessarily sure what I was going to be doing, but I knew I wasn't going to be doing what I had been doing for so long. Still incredibly passionate about education, still working in education, but working in a very different context, because what I realized is that I had given everything that I had to give during the years that I was in education. And at some point, there was nothing left for me to give. And so took some time off, figured out what I need, figured out how to create a career and a life around the things that will sustain me and help me to be in education. Because for me, I honestly felt like it was just like too much, too late. Like I was stopping to take a step back at a point when it was beyond fixable, right? Like there was nothing left for me to give in that moment. And so what I do now is support women in self-care and in their leadership journey through coaching to make sure that you are able to create a sustainable life for yourself before it's too late. Because I know that every single human out here wants to do the best that they can, wants to create the best life that we can for ourselves and our families and our friends and our communities. And yet at some point, there comes a time when you're like, okay, who am I going to choose right now? Like, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm burnt out.
Totally.
How do I take care of me so I can continue to do the good work that the world needs for a longer term?
So how long into your career was this for you? 3 years? 10. Okay.
Yeah, I was 10 years into teaching and into work in the school systems.
Now, what grades did you teach?
This is the fun part. So I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math when I was working in Miami. I know. And it's funny, like little did I know when I was making that original choice, all of the things that middle school entailed. Then moved and coached at the high school level, at the elementary school, went back into the classroom and taught 2nd grade, which I have learned to be my very happy place. I love 2nd grade. I love that age group. They are just my absolute favorite. And now I teach the big kids. So I'm teaching graduate school candidates right now who, it's fun because I get a lens into their development. Right. And through working with them, get to see everybody that they work with. So I feel like I've taught in so many different areas. I have students in Hawaii teaching high school science, right? Like I get to see into all of these different classrooms, which is an amazing opportunity.
That's amazing. So you're an adjunct professor of education at John Hopkins. Is that right?
That is correct.
That's fascinating. So what are you actually teaching these graduate students?
This is the other thing that's so fun.
Yeah.
So I'm teaching a class right now called Teaching for Transformation. And it's essentially the idea that we can take teachers away from being the sage on the stage who knows everything and fills these empty minds with wonderful things.
On the stage. I like
That's the thing. Yeah. And says, you are whole and resourceful and creative kids and you see the problems in your world. You know full and well what's going on with you. What do you want? What do you need? And then what can I do to support you? I'm not going to do it for you. I'm not going to demand that our school creates a recycling program. Like what is keeping you up at night? What's keeping you from being the best student you can be? And then how can I support you in getting that? I have the network. I have some resources. I, as the adult in the room, can help facilitate this process, but I'm not going to push, right? Like I'm not going to dictate what's going to happen. So the course that I'm teaching now is about access and student advocacy and helping students to see themselves as change agents. And to give students access to more doors of opportunity so that they'll have longer term opportunities.
I love that because I love that for a ton of reasons, but it really sounds like it mirrors your coaching philosophy and what you're doing with your coaching clients as well.
That's so funny. I've never said that explicitly, but it's absolutely true.
It's like the same shit. It's amazing. Yeah.
It's the exact same stuff. And that's what I mean by having a string of values that goes through everything that you do, right? Because when you believe that empowerment is the thing, and when you believe fundamentally that humans are whole and creative and resourceful, then you treat people differently, right? You treat students differently. When you say, actually, kiddos, I trust that you know what's wrong and what you want to fix in your world. What do you need me to do? And when you go to a coaching client and you're like, hey, friend, I see that you're struggling with this. You see that you're struggling with this. What do you think is the solution? How do you want to move forward? It's a very different world. And it's all coming back to this idea that you are exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you need to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
My job is to help you see different perspectives, different opportunities, and to help you get on the path to doing it yourself.
You're empowering them to empower themselves,
Bingo.
which I fucking love. I'm writing a book on radical autonomy, and that is one of my core values because I mean, as you were describing it, I was thinking this doesn't just apply to students or our coaching clients. This applies to my therapy clients, my friendships, my children.
Mm-hmm.
The world does not want us to be giving anybody advice. Nobody wants your fucking advice.
Right? And it's so true, right? Like I can tell you the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, but you might not be ready to hear it for 5 years when you're sitting down meditating and journaling and you're like, you know what? I think I should do this. And I'm like, I've been saying this for 10 years. Like, until you are the one who realizes it for yourself, it doesn't matter at all.
Exactly. But they do want to be truly seen and understood and accepted for wherever they're at right there with their supposed limitations that are feeling so overwhelming.
Yes.
And to have someone who's outside of that moment be able to point the way to the resources while giving them that non-judgmental acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
That I love it. It really is the key to transformation. And right, we're going like educational philosophy with it. If we did it for them, then they're not getting the learning experience.
Exactly.
They won't be able to replicate it.
If I think about my own experience, people have been telling me like, girl, you need to sleep for those full 10 years that I was in education, right? People are like, are you taking care of yourself? No, I'm not. I have kids. Like, I have students to worry about. Obviously, I'm not. Like, I'm fully aware. And if you tell me to take care of myself, I still don't know what you mean.
Yes.
And I still don't know why it's important. Like, I haven't felt the need to do the thing you're telling me to do, even though, like, logically speaking, I understand that self-care is important. I can point to the same studies that you can because I've read them. You made me. You sent me the articles. But I still am not on board with this idea that my sleep is more important than my kids' lesson plan tomorrow. So guess what? I'm going to choose the lesson plan until it hits me in a way that I get in my bones. Like, I need to feel the weight of this understanding before I'm going to make a change, right? Because you're talking about full-on lifestyle changes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to take a whole level of like body understanding before your brain's on board and says, yeah, I think you're right. I do need to change something now.
So true. And I want to go on a slight little tangent for a second regarding that, because I have seen with so many of my clients, especially other multi-passionate, type A, driven, whatever euphemism we're giving it, very accomplished men and women, that their brains tend to love justifying all of those little projects, right? Like, it's a half fucking truth. Like, those are responsibilities. You do have children or people relying on you. But that does not mean that you get to throw out the priority, which needs to be, in the case of today's conversation, self-care.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Could not agree more.
Yeah, it's tricky. Like, you're right. You do have to still feed your children. You do have to lesson plan. You do have to grade those papers. However, you're not going to be able to do that if you're friggin' passed out on the floor and you're doing a really shitty job because you're likely to be angsty and make mistakes anyway.
Exactly. And like, at some point, your body's going to do it with or without your approval.
Truth. We've heard so many stories about that. Yeah.
I believe it. Okay, so I won't go into that again, but it's just so true.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's that mind, body, spirit connection. It's a bi-directional loop. So it's going to show up somewhere. Ironically, for my now 13-year-old recently, last year, it showed up as a stress ulcer.
Oh, no.
Yeah, 7th grader. Right?
Oh, no.
Crazy, because she wasn't vocalizing her stress. And so she literally was swallowing her feels.
Oh,
I know, poor munchkin. But powerful lesson for her to learn at this age, as much as my mommy heart hated it. We were able to have conversations and get her own therapist, so that way she had a private space to talk about the feels.
And I truly hate that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there's, like, you're right, there's so much learning opportunity in there, because guess what? It's probably not going to happen again. Mm-hmm. Or like the next time she starts seeing this, she's like, okay, I remember what happened last time. I see the signs coming and I can try to prevent it from happening again.
Yes. So, which brings me to this radical concept that you had called Go Love Yourself. And I want to talk about all of that. But before that, girl, let's dive into this buzzword that I hate so much. And I'm hoping you can make me love it.
Yes.
Self-care. Oh, makes me vomit.
And like, it's such a bastardized word, right?
Yes.
Because, when marketing geniuses get hold of this word, sorry, genius doesn't feel like the right word, but I don't have something else in its place. But when the marketing people, latch onto self-care and they're like, we can do so much with this. Self-care. People love self-care. Let's bastardize the hell out of it and turn it into Treat Yourself Tuesdays and Self-Care Sundays. And it becomes this like very infantile that you point to having accomplished, when in reality, that's just not how it works at all.
I want it to just be fucking face masks and glitter bath bombs.
No.
Like, stop trying to put that label on everything to sell me shit.
And that's what it is, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you think about people, people know, I mean, in the same idea that we're like trusting our kids and trusting our students and trusting our bodies, we know when there's something wrong. And for the most part, we want to do something about it. But the real work takes work. And a lot of us are like, listen, I don't have time. I got kids and students and lesson plans and sleep to catch up on. So like, what's the quick fix here? What can you sell me? Like, I don't have time to figure this out, but I do have some extra money. So I'll give you the money that I have and hopefully you can fix it for me. When in reality, all of the self-care that we need to do is like this deeply personal inner work that you cannot outsource or buy.
Yeah, no, just my cha-cha has glitter on it from the bath bomb.
Oh my God. So this is so funny, right? Because people pitch me on the most random shit all the time,
of course,
to put it into my self-care box, right? Mm-hmm. And I have gotten more hoo-ha things in the past couple of months.
I bet.
I'm like, but it's this, it's the same thing that medical students go through, right? Like you read about something and you're like, I'm sick with everything. And now that I'm in the world of self-care, I'm like, I need everything. I didn't even know that I needed a hoo-ha steam bath.
Totally. That yoni steaming. Yep.
Oh my God. Everything.
Which, hey, if you love it, go for it. And I'm also all about those yoni eggs too, but it's just funny that everything that's self-care is for my lady bits. I was trying to come up like, what euphemism do I want to offer right now in the air?
It's perfect.
My lotus blossom.
It's opening up like different ideas that I didn't know I needed before, right? And in reality, self-care is really about listening to yourself instead of listening to all the marketing campaigns out there. Because my cousin, who is a dear friend and supporter, and I go to her for all of the advice related to self-care, because she understands that self-care is this combination of like, sure, go get a fucking glitter bath bomb if that's what your body needs. If you need a bath every night, like she does, she takes a bath every night.
Wow.
Then go for it. Listen, if you need an hour to sit there and just do what you need to do to chill the F out after your day, by all means do it. That doesn't work for everybody. But there's this like blissful listen to yourself component and do what you need to do for you. If that's bath bombs, go for it. If it's not bath bombs, stop buying them.
I do love a good bath bomb once in a while. It just makes me laugh because that is instantly what I think of. People like self-care. And I'm like, if you tell me to take one more goddamn bubble bath.
I know.
And then nothing changes. If I get up out of that bubble bath and I have not listened to my intuition and have not come to any decisions, what's the fucking point?
And there have been times when I'm like, yes, I'm going to a hotel this weekend. Like if I've been traveling, I'm going to stay in the hotel. I'm going to drop a bath. I'm going to pour some bath salt in it. And then I sit there and ruminate.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Or I pull up my phone and I'm like, Sharon, this is like the actual opposite of what you need. Just because there's a bath bomb involved doesn't mean it's fixed anything. I'm still sitting here on Facebook getting really pissed off about the things in the world.
Exactly.
Not the point.
Not the point. So what is the point?
Yeah.
Why did you come around to Go Love Yourself and explain, first of all, what it is and why we need it?
Yes. So in all reality, so here's how I kind of break it down. Self-love is the result of taking care of yourself and giving yourself what you need and accepting yourself for who you are and forgiving all of the things. Self-love is this result that we're trying to get towards, right? And whatever it means for you. Self-care is the action that helps you to get there. And for me and my subscription box, self-help is one of the methods of getting there. right? So
Mm.
the way that I see it is self-care can be anything that you need it to be. It can be physical, it can be spiritual, it can be financial, it can be health related, whatever it is that you need to be okay in this moment. And the only way to know that is to sit there and spend the time going in, because happiness is an inner game, right? We hear that all the time, or at least I do. It's an inner game that you need to figure out. And there can be things on the outside that help us to tap into that inner game, but it's up to you to figure out what that is, right? What is the thing that feels off? Where does it feel off? And give yourself what you need. So self-care can be bath bombs and masks. It can be saying what you need to say to the person you need to say it to.
Yes.
It can be whatever it is that's going to make you feel whole and taken care of and loved and seen. And sometimes self-care is happy hour on Friday night with your best friend, taking a glass of wine and getting it all out and venting because you haven't had an opportunity to just say what you need to say to the person you need to say it to, but your best friend is going to be there for you to hear you and make sure that you're seen, make sure that you're feeling loved and respected, right? It can take in so many different forms, but the ultimate goal of this, right, in my opinion, self-care is not true self-care unless it's getting you closer to that concept of self-love, right? If it's not getting you closer to, and maybe not self-love, maybe it's the leadership practices that you need. Maybe it's like the acceptance, whatever you're trying to accept about yourself, but it should be moving you towards something, right? And
I agree, because otherwise you're just sugarcoating a turd, as they say down here in the South.
I love that phrase. Sugarcoating a turd, or like covering it in glitter.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
I'm still stressed. You just wrapped your stress up in something else, in glitter.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Speak your truth. Get it out.
And like, look at Maslow's hierarchy, right? Like, I can't even like conceptualize how many times I've heard Maslow's referenced in the past couple months around like, make sure you're moving up the chart, and like, have you taken care of all of your health needs and your sex needs and your connection needs or whatever? But at the same time, like, there's so much truth to that. If your fundamental needs are not taken care of, and if you're not feeling seen and loved and heard and cared for and safe, the rest of it doesn't matter. And this is kind of a funny concept, but this weekend, actually, yesterday, read the little book of, I don't know how to pronounce it, Huga?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you read this one?
I have not, but I hear great things.
One thing that I love about it, and I've been putting it off for the longest because I'm like, man, are these just the new bath bombs? Like, are you going to tell me to wrap myself in some scarves and like some very fuzzy socks and like be warm around a fire? And is that the new bath bomb? But what I do appreciate is that they're very clear on saying the reason that we have such a high standard of living and that we are so happy up here in Scandinavia is that our fundamental needs are taken care of. We have access to great health care. People are not on the streets. There is like a support network. Like, you are not worried about not having all of your basic human needs met. And because you're not worried about unhappiness at every corner, you have so much brain space and heart space and life space left to pursue the things that make you feel good, right? So it's this idea that, yes, take care of all of your basic human needs and then get comfortable, spend time with friends, cozy up, like natural light, natural ambiance, doing the things that make you feel good because your basic human needs are met, right? So coming back to this idea of self-care, it's all of these things. It's anything. Self-care is truly whatever it is you need to be okay. And the only person who knows that is you.
I love that because, well, for a ton of reasons, but it gives people permission to start with the basics, to be able to, and actually people oftentimes hate this, especially the entrepreneurs that I work with. I'm like, do you know your numbers? Do you know where your money is going? Do you know how much you actually need to sustain this practice that you're trying to build, etc.? Yep. That is self-care. And it leads to self-love when you feel totally sovereign in your business. And same thing when I was a single mom, and I remember making that very hard decision to say my truth, which was, this marriage has got to end. It's toxic. I got to go. Picked up, took my two baby girls, who were 4 and 2 at the time, and walked to my sister's house. I ended up sleeping on her couch for 2.5 years to put myself through night school, because that was my Maslow's hierarchy. Could not do anything else until I had that taken care of. To me, that was radical self-love.
It is. That is absolutely. And, you know, so many of the constructs that we have in our society are meant to keep you on autopilot. To just keep doing the thing that you've been doing, no matter how much it sucks. There's a strange reward system that we have where you're kind of rewarded for venting.
Girl,
and
preach.
People don't want to hear you talk about how great things have been lately. We want to commiserate on what's not going well. And that just reinforces the cycle that, like, I don't have to do anything different. This is what life is. Of course it's going to suck at some point. And, like, sure, life has its ups and downs. But until we realize that many pressures in society from our friends, from our well-meaning family, from our partners, keep us on this treadmill. If you don't even see the treadmill that you're on, you can't jump off, right? And part of self-care is jumping on a bad treadmill that you don't even want to be on and having the sense of self to say, whatever I do is going to be better, or I trust that
I need off this ride. Conductor,
I need off this ride. Exactly. And, like, it might suck in the interim, but it's going to get better.
Oh, so much better. You got to make a leap. That's my thing. That brings me back to the, you know, all the research that actually shows. One of the classes that I teach as an adjunct is psych and gender, and women's friendships tend to be a little more toxic than men's because of that factor of co-rumination. Women love to chew the cud together, and they don't often make it into the problem-solving mode that men will unless they are more conscious and mindful. They will sit there and vent, and the other one will vent because we're groomed, right, to share. We're groomed to not make our friend feel bad. And so women, we're often afraid to give them that truth. Right. So we'll bring our sugar shaker to the turd
that
party.
Is so true. Happy hours should be renamed turd parties for that exact
reason. Should be, yes. And so I'm constantly telling the women that I work with and the women that I teach, like, yes, we sit there, we let our girlfriends vent, but then we go, all right, baby girl, what you gonna do about it? What now?
Yes. Yep.
How can I support you in your what now?
A few months ago, I was having just a shitastic kind of day.
Shitastic.
I don't often, at this point, publicly share that, right? Like, I figure it out and I move on because that's what I would rather do.
Right.
But I posted on something because I felt this need for, like, community, and I felt this need for just voicing whatever was happening. And so I posted something on social media, and somebody posted back, how can we love up on you? And I loved that question.
Oh, wonderful.
Because it wasn't just like, no, things are going to get better. And, like, no, we're not going to sugarcoat. Like, yeah, shit sucks right now. And that's okay. There are ups and downs. What do you need? And sometimes you just want to vent because you haven't had a place. And sometimes you're like, you know what? I need somebody to help me think through this. I don't know what's going on with my financials. I don't know how I'm going to make this work. And, like, to make this better, you might just need to vent. You might need the community support. You might need the specifics, but it's up to you. Like, if you truly want something to get better, you need to know which of those you need so you can go for it.
I love it. This episode's going to come with 2 new hashtags, shitastic and hashtag sugarcoated shit.
I love it. I love it. I love that so much.
That just reminds me of another point, though. I have had several women, you know, due to social media, Instagram, etc., and this concept that we've all internalized now that self-care means manicures, pedicures, bath bombs, etc., are just like, you know what? They'll go into debt over it. I'll just pull out a credit card. I don't have it. And to me, we're now inverting Maslow's hierarchy and it becomes a bypass. So can you talk more about that concept of spiritual entertainment versus enlightenment?
Yes. Oh my God.
And how that's really not self-care?
Yeah. So the way that I see it happening most often, and when I say spiritual entertainment, what I essentially mean is that, for example, I'm going to read a self-help book. I know that I want to work on getting more sleep. So I'm going to read a book on sleep and then put it on my shelf. And with that goes all the ideas with it. And I'm not actually going to do anything about my sleep. I'm not going to take a good hard look at why I'm not getting sleep. I'm not going to take a good hard look at the fact that I only give myself 6 hours anyway. And I've actually accepted that 6 hours is enough because my friends at work only get 4 or 5. And part of the competition, anyway. So this whole idea of spiritual entertainment is that it's well documented that if I read about something enough and visualize that it's going to be all better, then part of me feels like I've achieved some sort of progress, even though I haven't done shit. Right? And that's the entertainment piece, is that I feel better about myself because I'm reading about these things, which should make my life better. But unless I commit to doing the hard work of actually getting out of this relationship and going to sleep on my friend's couch, I'm not doing anything about it. Right? And so there's this idea that you're entertaining yourself by saying, oh, I'm reading Brene Brown's books, therefore I'm more like Brene today than I was yesterday. And you're creating this like false sense of self that hasn't actually transformed.
Once again, it's a half-truth.
It's a half-truth.
I'm glad you read the book. It's better than nothing.
Yep. And you showed up and you started with that, but now
what?
You have language to explain it. You might have new schema that you can connect to, but unless you are looking for where shame actually shows up in your life, unless you're looking for different places to demonstrate authenticity or be no more vulnerable or dare to lead in whatever way that you're doing it, you've just read a book.
So you can describe your shit, but it's still sitting there on the plate.
And it's still going to show up at happy hour, right?
And we can all still smell it.
That is absolutely true. That is, and it's, I mean, now we're just talking about it in different ways. We have new ways to complain about our old habits.
Yeah.
For what?
Hashtag stop describing your shit.
I love that. Like with beautiful terminology, mind you.
Oh, yeah.
But then this idea of spiritual enlightenment, right? Like if you think about enlightenment, to me, that means that there's a new awakening, right? And many people have several awakenings in their lives. And a lot of that is due to the adult development, right? Like when you go from one stage in adult development to the next, there's this feeling of awakening, or at least that's how I've always described it, is like, once you see something new, you can't unsee it.
Amen. Mindfulness is a bitch sometimes.
It is an absolute bitch. And like, I'm so glad she's around because I need her. And each time you awaken, you delve more deeply into who you are, what you really need, and this idea of spiritual enlightenment, right? And what's kind of funny is that there's, I don't know, this element of like, if I read books, if I read The Power of Now, which like it's kind of out there. It's not the first self-help book you should read. Right, exactly. But there's an understanding that you need to have before diving into some of those books. It's like kids reading on a 10th grade level when they're in 2nd grade.
You're right.
Like you haven't gotten to the point where you truly can conceptualize what the book is saying and why it matters and why it's so important that this book exists in the world. You're just entertaining yourself again. Like, oh, I'm so proud of myself. I've read this great book by this spiritual thinker.
But you got to crawl before you can walk, boo-boo.
Exactly, right? Like you're not going to wake up tomorrow and just magically be enlightened and all of the things are going to make sense in your world.
No. Hello, Vygotsky zone of proximal development.
Amen, sister. So spot on. Exactly.
Let's climb that hierarchy one rung at a time. And sometimes that means starting with the basics, and you got to, as you're so eloquently putting it, implement them.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
do the damn thing is what I
say. Do not go into debt buying all these courses and books and programs that you're not willing to use. You're just fooling yourself while being entertained. I love that. It actually reminds me of the Latin word for revelation, right? We're talking about enlightenment here, is revelare, which kind of sounds like something Hermione Granger would say. Revelare. But it means to lift the veil. And so if you're seeking, new insight and true change, you have to be willing to look at the shit underneath that sugar.
You got that right.
Lift the veil and do something about it.
And so I'm a very visual and analogy kind of person. I love analogies. And what this is kind of making me think of right now is that you almost have this spiritual self-care resume that you're building. Right? Like, oh, I've read that book. Oh, I've taken that course. Oh, I've done that. Oh, I do get manicures every day. And you add it to this list of reasons why you should be enlightened and better as a human being. But again, just like any courses that you really go to, just like any college degrees that you might have, if you don't do the work and transform the way that you think about things and the way that you're acting, it's just shit on a list.
Totally. Next hashtag.
Shit on a list.
I will stop people in session all the time, and I said, quit giving me your resume. Quit it. I don't
So
want
true.
to lead a or live a resume life. I want to live a eulogy life, which to me is that thing that, your core values. We're
Right.
all the way back to center. What have you done?
That's so true. That's
Yeah, so good. I knew we'd be soul sisters.
I love it.
And so this takes me to the next step before we get to what you're doing with it of being a visual person myself. I'll tell people, it's kind of like a dirty diaper. If it stinks, it's awful. We can all smell it. It's messy. Don't want to have to go through it. We're worried about, what we're going to find in there. But until you actually do the thing, right? You're just setting yourself up for what? Sores and said toxicity. Stop trying to cover it up. Just as messy as it is, take care of it. And then you're free. Move on.
Yeah. That's hard. It's hard.
It is hard. And I know we both have a lot of empathy for our clients and students and loved ones who are still sitting in this shit today. And if that's you listening right now, that's totally okay, sir or madam.
Because everybody has just like their different flavor of shit.
Yeah. But I love you too much to leave you in the shit.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So what do you recommend for people who they know they're having a hard time? They know things aren't right. They've got the physical symptoms or the mental symptoms. They're not sleeping well. Where do they even get started? It's overwhelming.
It is. It really is. And I know it's overwhelming because I've been there.
Me too.
And I feel like I've been there a handful of times. And it's another one of those things where, like, I wish I had a magic bullet to answer this question and every question, but it truly doesn't exist. And so I think step one is realizing that no magic bullet is going to fix this. Like, a new job might not fix it because you might recreate the same relationship that you had with your boss last time. Like, it's not like something quick and easy is going to fix this. But what I will say is that more often than not, kind of what I do end up recommending is almost a gradual release, right? So this takes me back to education. There's a gradual release of responsibility and ownership when you're learning something new, practicing something new. And in order to do that, you need to understand what you know about yourself and sometimes gain a deeper insight first before you can actually do this stuff. So what I usually do and what I usually recommend is therapist first. Figure out the shit that's going on before, because that's going to keep coming up unless you deal with your shit.
Amen.
Then get a coach to figure out what's going on now and where you're trying to get, where you want to be, how you're going to get there. And then once you feel like you've gotten a good handle on it and things are trucking in the right direction and like you see the path, you're creating the path for yourself and you're able to like make choices along this path in pursuit of what you want, then you can switch to books. Then you can switch to your own self-care. But I feel like until you see the path, you know what path you want to be on, you're choosing the path. You're not letting society choose it for you. You're not letting your friends and family or your workplace choose it for you. Once you see the path that you have created, that you have chosen for yourself, then I support meditation, journaling, reading books, and continuing on that like path, right? So that you're able to make it up as you go. But then again, you're going to hit another crossroads. And at that point, figure out if you need to call a therapist, a coach, or a best friend who's going to call you on your shit.
Girl, no, you didn't. I'm like hearing the shock waves ripple throughout the universe right now. I fucking adore you. You just turned it on its head because most people, you know this to be true. 99% of the people listening have had that backwards this whole time. Yeah. They will read the books. They'll try to teach themselves how to meditate. Then they want a coach because, again, they don't want to get into the shit yet. They want to give me just that, a positive solution. But you're not ready to run. I can't teach you how to run a marathon when you haven't walked outside your front door yet.
Right.
Oh, so good. Yeah. Just mic drop. That was a big one.
I hope so. And I mean, I feel like a lot of times, like, not only do we sugarcoat the shit, we sugarcoat the solutions, right? And I wish people mic dropped more often. And I wish people literally dropped the mic so that they would stop talking, right? Like, I want you to just say the thing that your friend needs to hear or like receive the thing that you need to hear and then stop talking. Just stop talking. Drop the mic and sit in that shit for a little bit, right? Because in this idea of like sugarcoating solutions, we just want solutions. We don't want to sit in the question. And in the question is where all the magic happens.
You are giving me tweetable orgasms.
Hey, that is so funny.
So good. I'm going to come up with a new hashtag for that. Tweetagasm.
So funny. Like, I love, does this happen all the time? Do you come up with all these like tweetables and hashtags every time?
I mean, no, not really. It takes a double energy. I think you and I are walking on a similar wavelength. No.
You got the dive. Good.
I mean, I love linguistics and I am a very stereotypical Gemini, so I love wordplay, but no, it's by our powers combined.
It's so good.
It's a shitastic episode. Tweetagasm. It's a tweetagasmic
episode.
Episode. All the things.
Good.
So talk to me about Go Love Yourself. And I have Justin Bieber in my head, and I know that that's not where you went.
No, my ultimate goal is to surpass him on the front page of Google.
For Go Love Yourself.
Exactly. At some point it'll happen.
It will. Speak it out to the universe. That's
we will outlast
the Biebs.
5 minutes of fame, which is going on far too long. Anyway, so in line with exactly how I feel about how development happens, how vertical development, adult development, all of these awakenings and enlightenment happen. So essentially what Go Love Yourself does is it takes the concept of self-help, which I see as a methodology of self-care. There are tons of self-care methodologies. Self-help books are just one of them. And I help members and subscribers and readers to put it into action. Take it away from just this entertainment where you put it back on your shelf and turn it into action. Here's how I do it. So every month, I facilitate conversation in our private Facebook group. It is an amazing conversation full of badass women who know what they want or are working on figuring out what they want in a super supportive environment of other women who are doing the exact same thing and therefore really, really care about the world and themselves and the other people in this group, which is amazing. So I listen to what we talk about in there and in our webinars and conversations and just hear the themes of what people are working on. And then I develop an entire themed box around that idea. It can be getting more sleep. It can be finding friends as an adult. It can be leaning into your passion. It can be embracing the gifts of our imperfection, breaking up with our phones, it's creativity, whatever the thing is. I establish an entire month-long experience around that. So in the box each month, you get a self-help book on that topic. The teacher in me takes that book and turns it into a workbook where you journal, set goals, track progress, reflect, all kinds of great things to get you thinking about the topic, right? And reflecting and figuring out what's going on for you around that topic. And then there's anywhere from 3 to 5 self-care items in the box that help you to put it into action. So for instance, in April, one of our very favorite boxes was The Sleep Revolution by Ariana Huffington. The workbook was a sleep log that helped you to track how much are you actually sleeping, how do you feel when you wake up in the morning, how do you feel around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, like
That's
what are you eating? Oh, me too. All the
carbs.
Oh my gosh. Well, for me it's tangent, but
okay,
I'm like, do I take a nap? Do I drink coffee? Like, I don't even know what to do. But if you track it for 30 days and see what you do and whether or not it helps, then you know what to do.
You've got evidence.
Exactly, right? So this is about like collecting data, collecting your thoughts, figuring out what you need to move forward. And then the items in the box were things like sleep masks, candles, pillow sprays, fun things to help you put it into practice. So this is where the bath bomb component comes in, but it's action oriented, right? So like it feels good, it smells great. You put this fluffy mask on and you feel like a princess when you lay down in bed, but also you're blocking out the light and therefore going to sleep better. And because the book and reflecting and a sleep mask are probably not the things that's going to solve your sleep problems, they'll help, right? Like you might collect enough data to know what to do to move forward. Maybe setting up a nightly routine with lighting a candle, reading a book, putting on your eye mask before you go to sleep. Maybe that'll solve the problem. Maybe it won't. So if you are in the maybe it won't side of things, because in all reality, you're just too freaking anxious, a sleep mask is not going to turn off your anxious brain, then that's where the community comes in. We talk about things, and there's a 30-minute coaching session that comes with every single box. So if the book wasn't the thing that solves it, if tracking the data isn't the thing that solves it, if a sleep mask isn't the thing that solves it, you talk to another human being who specializes in that month's topic, and talks you through it. What's going on for you? What's the thing that's stopping you from being successful? Well, what's going on with that? What's going on with that? Let's get to the bottom of it, because then you get to that deep innermost thing that's preventing you from taking care of yourself, right? Secretly, I'm worried that I'm going to be fired next Tuesday. Therefore, I can't sleep. A sleep max is not going to solve that. Let's talk about that fear that you have, right? And so the coaching kind of rounds out this entire experience and gives you a human to connect with about it. And then we get in the chat, and we, generally speaking at this point, have a Q&A with the author, which is quite amazing. And then if we don't have a Q&A with the author, then we do find some other expert to export
the knowledge. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Well twisted. I appreciated that. Yeah. And then we just connect about like what's working and what's fucking hard about this, because self-care is hard sometimes, right? It's really hard to prioritize yourselves. And in October, that was the theme. It kept coming up that like, sure, I want to be creative. I want to paint every Tuesday. Sure, I want to break up with my phone, but prioritizing myself is really hard. So October's entire box was about waking up and prioritizing you from the very moment that you wake up in the morning, before you check your emails, before you check on your kids, before you do anything else. Do what you need to do for you to be okay today. And for me, that includes reading, writing, and meditating every single morning. For some people, that includes exercising. For some people, it means waking up at 5:30. Like whatever the thing is that you need to start your day calm, clear, focused, and with you at the center of it all is what needs to happen, right? So
I love it. Total swoon.
I love it too. And so every month there's a different focus, a different theme. And then if the theme of the month doesn't work for you, you either skip it or replace it with a previous month's theme, right? Like,
well, that's cool.
I like to think so too. So if November's coming up and you're like, I don't need this thing, let me see which other boxes exist that I haven't gotten yet, and let me work on that thing instead.
That's awesome. So where can people go find that?
Yoo-hoo. So Google me at Go Love Yourself and help me beat out the beebs. And if not, then you can find me at www.thegoloveyourselfbox.com. Also on Instagram at the Go Love Yourself Box. I'm on Facebook at the GLY Box. And we also have a free community for folks who might not be paying members, because you shouldn't need money to take care of yourself and connect with other humans. So there's a free community as well, where we also post the book in case you just wanted to go out and get the book of the month, to connect with other women about what it's like and how we're doing and all of those great things.
You know, I'm not usually a fan of memberships, but this is pretty kick-ass.
And you know what? I like to think so too. And because it's relatively inexpensive, like it's $49.95 for the full box. And that includes coaching. That includes the community. It includes the webinars. It includes everything.
Damn.
I think so too.
Cheaper than like sliding scale therapy. That's great.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And if you just want the book, the workbook, the coaching, and the webinar and the community, then that's only $30, which like, again, is cheaper. I mean, I live in DC, so pedicures are probably expensive, like more expensive than most places. But like, that's literally cheaper than one pedicure. And it lasts all freaking month.
And you're getting evidence-based results, people.
Bingo.
Come on. The academician in me appreciates.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
That'll be another great hashtag. Academician appreciation.
I very much support that one.
You are joy. Thank you so much, Sharon, for all of this.
My absolute pleasure. And I wanted to share that I do coaching. So if you are not interested in these things, you want one-on-one coaching with me, that is also available. You can find me in a bunch of different places as well. I'll give you my email so that you can put it in the show notes.
Totally.
But otherwise, you can also find Instagram is actually the best way to get in touch with me.
Really?
At this point. I know. It's strange. So you can find me on Instagram at Sharon Podobnik, and that's where I connect with lots of folks. So feel free to reach out to me there. Join the Facebook community. Whatever works for you. This was such a pleasure.
Oh, so great.
I enjoyed this conversation. Anytime. Happy to.
Thanks Thanks for listening to the Sacred Psychology Podcast. I pray you found some inspiration and empowerment to go out and make this life the most fulfilling possible. You can follow Sacred Psychology on Facebook and YouTube. If you haven't yet, please go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Tag us on social media and let us know what you think as well. Please note that the information provided is not meant to convey professional, psychological, or medical advice. If you could use such services, I highly recommend seeking them out from someone you trust. To get in touch with me personally or to see how we might work together, please check out ariatherapy.com or talesfromatrapezoid.com. Until next time, everyone.